So Jimmy Dore already did a segment on how the squad coordinated their vote to fund the police. Instead of defunding the police, they instead funded the police. I want to show you this video, but I personally want to show you additional footage of how funding the police is not a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan effort to get more cops in the streets. Take a look at this video, and then we have a lot to talk about and a lot of videos to play. So take a look.
The squad finally coordinated their votes, but not in the way you think. You know how they would never vote together as a block and use their leverage? And everybody gave me shit for pointing that out last December and January, and now everybody else is pointing that out. Well, guess what they did? They finally coordinated. Devastating news. This dangerous bill passed 213 to 212, with Representative AOC Rashid Tlaib and Jamal Bowman abandoning their positions and voting present instead of against it, thus supporting giving cops more money and weapons to use against the most vulnerable people. So they voted for a bill that gave almost $2 billion more to the Capitol Police. So they were running around saying defund the police for a whole year, and then when they got a chance to vote for it, they voted to refund them.
So that's obvious, and it's really sad that Jimmy Dore is the only person that picked up on this, but I want to show you additional footage and more information about defunding the police. So the mayor of LA is wanting to give $3 billion to the police, to LAPD. And I want you to notice what's wrong with this picture here. This is coming from a guy who supposedly wants to defund the police, according to all the right-wingers. Now, if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you all that evidence in a moment. Now, the media doesn't want you to know that Democrats also want to fund the police, so they try to shift the narrative when it comes to Democrats trying to fund the police. Take a look at how the mainstream media does this.
Now, from the deck of the Griffith Observatory, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti just delivered his State of the City address. He revealed he will deliver his biggest budget ever tomorrow. A big chunk of it he calls his justice budget.
It starts with more than $1 billion invested in a movement to untangle the inequities that have strangled our city and our nation for decades.
Notice what hasn't been mentioned so far. Notice what has not been mentioned so far, and it won't be mentioned at all in this entire video.
The mayor is also proposing another $950+ million to eradicate homelessness in the city, $151 million to advance racial justice, and $25 million in comeback checks. That means 5,000 small businesses would get $5,000 checks to rebuild post-pandemic. The mayor also announced cutting red tape and reducing fees to help hard-hit restaurants. And he proposed spending $75 million to administer vaccines and PPE to Angelenos.
I feel like something's missing there. I don't know. You tell me. So nowhere in there was police mentioned. I wonder why. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that mainstream media outlet failed to recognize this giant budget for the police. Well, it's because they don't want you to know that Democrats want to fund the police as well as Republicans. This is a bipartisan effort. The only people against defunding the police are the people. The politicians want to all fund the police. The people want to defund the police. There's a huge divide, not between party lines, but between the people and the politicians and the mainstream media. The mainstream media has chosen a side very clearly. Now, here is an example of how the right wing likes to try to fund the police. This is their justification for funding the police.
It's not COVID. It's that in our country, stupid, malicious people took full control. The Democratic Party took full control of the country, and their policies resulted in a huge number of killings. That's not speculation.
What policies?
They bragged about it. Here they are, bragging about their plans.
The folks in law enforcement that share the goals of reimagining policing. Reimagining policing in the 21st
Not
century.
defund.
Rethinking and reimagining
Not
policing.
defund.
Community efforts to reimagine policing.
Not defund.
Reimagine policing.
Not
We have to
defund.
reimagine what policing looks
Not
like.
defund.
Reimagining policing,
Not
reimagining our
defund.
public safety.
Reimagine a
Not
citizen-led
defund.
approach.
We can begin to reimagine
Not
law
defund.
enforcement.
Reimagine public safety in
Not
this country.
defund.
What can we do to reimagine public safety?
Not
Reimagining
defund.
public safety.
That's not the same
public
thing.
safety. We must
That's not the same thing.
reimagine what public safety looks like.
It's not the same thing.
Well, they
And then he puts a picture of defund the police. And the headline now says, reimagining public safety made us less safe. That's not at all what these policies of reimagining the police, what is that policy? What policy was passed called reimagine the police? I don't see one. I just see a bunch of Democrats trying to shift the narrative from defund to reimagine because they want to fund the police, Tucker. And you know this. And I know you know this. And I know you know that many of your viewers see right through you.
definitely reimagined public safety. They made the public much less safe. According to a
How?
report in Axios, 20 major U.S. cities have slashed their police budgets in the last year. They defunded the police. Collectively,
That's not true. We never defunded the police. There's not a single city in the U.S. that defunded the police. That's not true at all.
cut more than $840 million from law enforcement. In Atlanta, in a story that we love to read, one city councilman who voted to strip $73 million from the police, a genius called Antonio Brown, just had his car stolen in broad daylight by children.
That's called, see, what that's called is anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence is when you try to convince someone by going around the statistics, the actual links between lowering the funding of police and crime, right? There's correlations that you can look at. There's statistics that you can look at. But instead of showing you this, we're going to tell you about a personal event of one person.
Who were not held back by the police, they'd been defunded. Must have been COVID that did it. Meanwhile, at least 25 cities have pulled police out of public schools. They've canceled the contracts. How's that going to work? You know the answer. At universities, activists have pushed for the same total abolition of the police. When they said we're going to defund the police, they meant it.
What the
At the
fuck?
University of Chicago, dozens of students swarmed the home of the college president.
So the only thing I wanted to mention was the fact that right-wingers also want to fund the police. Left-wingers and right-wingers want to both fund the police. That's unacceptable. And so this is very clearly a divide between the people and the mainstream media / politicians.
One of them, an especially entitled young lady called Madeline Wright, shouted this through a megaphone, quote, "We're going to fight to abolish this effing system, not reform it." Professors at the school joined her.
That is an example of a student criticizing the Democrats, Tucker. That's an example of a student criticizing Democrats because Democrats want to fund the police. But Tucker's point that he's trying to make is that it's all of these Democrats that want to defund the police. I didn't hear a single one of them reference defund the police, and that's not an accident, Tucker, and you know this, and you know that a lot of your viewers just saw that. They just saw all of those politicians say, reimagine, reimagine, reimagine. They haven't done that yet. And then on top of that, he mentioned a bunch of cities that lowered their funding for police, but he failed to show what happened to crime in those cities. You think that's a relevant statistic, Tucker Carlson? I feel like that's a relevant statistic that should have been mentioned in this video. And we can keep going. This is an example of Turning Point USA, and you tell me which side are they on? Defund the police or fund the police? I don't know.
Welcome to Florida, the most patriotic state in America? That's a great question. What they are doing in Florida right now is not defunding their police. They are funding their police. This week on Betting on the Block, we're going to ask Floridians what they think about Ron DeSantis funding their police. That's right, $1,000 extra bucks for police officers, first responders, firemen. It is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. to fund the police. This is a far right winger that Tucker Carlson is agreeing with, but also that all of the Democrats are agreeing with, that also all of the mainstream media outlets are agreeing with. So here's another example of Fox News trying to fund the police by showing you how brave they are and how effective they are.
We begin with a Fox News alert. Our nation's finest are facing increasing threats on the job. The National Fraternal Order of Police is warning about a sharp increase in ambush-style attacks on police officers this year. And that union says the uptick can be traced to the defund the police movement. You're watching Outnumbered,
which hasn't seen any results.
Here today, my co-hosts Emily Campagno and Kaylee McEnany, and we're in person. Host of Kennedy on
so that we could spread COVID.
Fox Business, Kennedy herself. And in the virtual center seat, John James, former U.S. Senate candidate and Iraq War veteran. Great to see you all.
You all look like you're on virtual seats. I can't tell who is in person and who is not. It's really difficult from this angle.
Well, we are learning 128 police officers have been shot so far this year.
Oh my gosh. Let's sympathize for the cops. Every single day, LAPD kills somewhere between 1 and 5 people. But let's sympathize for the cops that shoot black people for a living. That's what they do. And if you don't believe me, then you're not paying attention. These people shoot people. That's what they do. They're not effective at stopping crime. You know, you still have to call 911 and then they take forever to get there. And if it's not like an eviction, if it's not something where you're white, if it's not something that protects property rights, then the cops don't care. And if the value of whatever was broken or damaged or stolen is less than like $5,000, they just don't care about you. They just move on because they're only trying to protect the wealthy. They're trying to protect the politicians. That's who they serve. They don't serve you. They serve them. And that's why so many people want to defund the police, is because there's no point to them.
A homeless man violently pushing a female officer to the ground as several bystanders rushed to help before backup officers arrived. One police official warning...
Who's helping the cop? Who's helping the cop here? I don't see the police. And that's a good thing, because all of these people would be tackled if there were more police. And on top of that, this person's homeless. Person probably has a lot of problems that they're dealing with right now. Maybe we should address those problems instead of the police officer. Instead of helping the police officer, maybe we should be helping the mental health of the person who attacked her. And on top of that, giving him a home, because everyone deserves a home. And maybe they have less problems, and maybe they won't lash out immediately when you grab them. Which, by the way, if you notice in the beginning of this video,
go under attack.
I see a female officer grabbing another person. Why? What's the context here? Not described. Fucking stupid.
Risking their lives, racing into a building after a gunman killed 9 of his co-workers at a rail yard. Remember, this was breaking about this time last week. The shots were still flying. The officers carefully, strategically moving throughout that building with their guns drawn, passing through rooms as they could hear the gunshots. And eventually, they find the gunman who had fatally shot himself. Professionals moving in to protect and serve. John James, you know what really stands out to me about this whole video and the close-up that we get to see of those cops going to work is how well trained and strategic they are in their movements. And it's
how well trained and strategic they are in their movements. Look what they're going to advocate for now.
Reminiscent of what we see sometimes in our military. And I know you're a war vet, so I want to get your first impressions on what we say when we say we're losing more cops. It's more than that. I mean, we put a lot of investment in them, and look at the return on investment.
Look at the return on investment. Look at the return on investment. You see the strategy. You see the strategy, so look at the return on investment. And so what they see is they see cops as an investment. They see cops as like infrastructure to invest in. That's not an investment. That's not how it works. When they kill people daily, they kill 1 to 5 people daily. Almost all of those go completely unnoticed. But look at their great work in that one instance. In that one instance, therefore we should invest in cops. That's the motive. That's the line of reasoning here. Because of this one anecdotal clip, we should fund police. It's a return of investment.
Well, it's really quite tragic, and those videos are tough to watch and even tougher to listen to. I flew over a combat zone in Iraq, Operation Rocky Freedom, and it's still tough to listen to. When you hear and when you see...
I don't care. I know this is going to be really controversial to say. Like, I really don't appreciate members of the military that were involved in warfare. Like, if you were involved in the process of killing people in other countries, which war did you fight in? And then the follow-up question was that war really justified? But then you say, oh, well, they don't really think about through. They just serve and serve. That's all they do. That's all they're designed to do. They follow the orders of the president, regardless of whether or not they're good or evil. That's a problem because you're killing people. So if you're involved in warfare, then what you're doing is wrong. You're killing people. That's wrong.
What people are doing, putting themselves in harm's way, my heart goes out to them and to their families. I thank them for their service. And I'm reminded of a tough combat situation I was in after we got back, watching ambushes, seeing what happens on the front lines every day. When one of my soldiers asked me, "Sir, why are we here?"
Yeah, why are we here? Sir, why are we here? Why are we here in Iraq? That's a great question. What do you say to that?
Why are we here? They hate us here. They tell us that we're evil and that we're here to destroy things. We're not. And I told them simply.
But you did. Civilians died because of people like you killed people. And why are we doing this? Well, it's because.
When one of my soldiers asked me, "Sir, why are we here?"
Why?
Why are we here?
Why are we
here?
here?
They hate us here.
They hate us.
They tell us that we're evil and that we're here to destroy things. We're not. And I told them simply that we're here to fight for people who can't fight for themselves.
We're here to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. I didn't ask for that shit. I never asked for people to kill over 1 million Iraqi civilians because I can't fight for myself. That's a shit reason. That's not a reason why you kill people, by the way. The question is, why are we here? Why Iraq? Why are we here?
Defend people who can't defend themselves. And we're here to make sure that our brothers in arms go back wearing their flag, not draped in it.
That's just virtue signaling, bro. You're just fucking saying things about the flag. The flag. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you, asshole, because there are tons of people who died because of people like you. Because you didn't answer the question, why are we in Iraq? I would have said, that's a really good fucking question. Why are we in Iraq? This is really stupid. This is unnecessary. Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a shit answer that you gave.
And I believe our officers go to work every single day in the same way. I think that they put themselves in harm's way because they truly love their communities.
They truly love their communities. That's why they fucking kill brown people. Because they love their communities. That's why.
Line to protect them. Our officers are good officers, deserve to be
They're
held.
good. Why are they good? He just said, why are we here? They hate us. They hate us. And then you say, well, we're good people, so we're the good team. We're the good team. They're the bad team. I get paid to shoot them. That's how this works.
The highest of esteem, and bad cops held accountable. But this rhetoric...
But bad cops should be held accountable. But this rhetoric...
needs to be stopped, and those in charge need to put an end to it, or else it's going to get worse.
Kennedy, as
What
I
rhetoric?
listen to John James, I'm just prayerful that the cops that protect us, those who are left on the job now, are not asking the question that his soldiers ask him, why are we here?
Why are
with
we
all
here?
the rhetoric and the ambushes and the violence against cops, let's pray that they don't ever have to wonder why they're here.
Actually, if you're a cop or in the military, you should definitely be asking, why the fuck am I here? If you're not asking that question, then what you're doing is you're just gratuitously murdering people and never asking why. How sick do you have to be to do shit like that? How sick do you have to be?
We need them.
No, it feels like that, especially when we see video like that female officer being attacked, just brutally attacked in San Francisco. But, you know, I look at that video and there's an active shooter. The sheriff's deputies hear gunfire and, you know, the reflex is to immediately and quickly move toward the gunfire. And, you know, that is a level of bravery that very, very few people possess. And those are the kind of cops that you want on the street. And
okay, so if those are the kind of cops that we want, then let's keep those cops, the cops in this video, and take all of the other cops and fire them because they're not doing this. They're just killing people. Do you understand?
And in uniform protecting you. And the defund the police movement has been so destructive and so clumsy. And in fact, a lot of the cities where we've seen that, you've seen a huge exodus of officers in the force, but also you've seen more money go back into the force without some of the changes that people on both sides of the badge would like to see.
So there's more money, less cops. So what are they going to spend that money on? More guns, more equipment. So that when cops shoot people, they can defend themselves. Governments have a monopoly on violence and oppression. This is a fact that socialists will admit. Capitalists will never admit that. Governments have a monopoly on violence and oppression. They're the only ones that get to do violence with justification. Even though, as a utilitarian, I believe that violence is unnecessary, full stop. It's always unnecessary. Whenever there's a shooter, you have to ask yourself, where is that shooter coming from? Why is that shooter there? Let's address that fucking problem too. But they never do. All they do is more police, more police, more police. But the problem is that the more cops there are, the more people die. So it's a circle. You're not decreasing murder. You're just monopolizing murder. There's a huge significant difference. We live in a police state. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, if you think that we're not in a police state, then this is I just showed you examples of every politician advocating for funding the police. Fund the police, fund the police, the mainstream media, fund the police, Turning Point USA, fund the police. ABC, fund the police. This is all a giant shit show between us and the mainstream media and politicians. Us versus them. It's not a matter of Democrats versus Republicans. I just showed you Democrats support funding the police as well. Mayor Eric Garcetti, mayor of LA, wants to spend $3 billion on the police and only $1 billion on homelessness. What's more important, do you think, in LA right now? When you think about California and the problems that California faces, and the problems that LA face, and the problems that are faced at Skid Row, what are the problems there? Maybe homelessness is one of the problems that we should focus on. But no, we're focusing on funding the police. Because everyone wants to fund the police. Everyone with power wants to fund the police. I did a video on why Tucker Carlson made a point that police are designed to protect the politicians and the wealthy. That's their job. They're not meant to protect you. If you have property that's less than $5,000, they don't give a fuck about you. If someone stole your TV, who cares? But if someone stole a TV from Walmart, well, then that's a big fucking deal. We need to figure out who did it. Because Walmart needs to be protected. That's the mentality of a police officer. And don't ask why you're here, because just do what you're fucking told. Don't ask, why are we here? And if you do ask, then go straight to virtue signaling. Because the flag, because America, because honor, loyalty, bravery, pride, whatever the fuck you want to insert, whatever virtue, okay, therefore now you can kill people. That's your green light to kill people. This is really sad to watch.